Hey guys, welcome back to Achieve Ed. It's been a while, but we are back, and today we are going to be reviewing a viral essay by this college applicant who is also a very successful startup founder. Basically, this was shared on social media that he got rejected from a lot of his top schools. In fact, almost all of them, even though he has, 34 ACT, 4.0 GPA, $30 million of annual revenue in his business. Yet he shares that he got rejected from a lot of schools, including Stanford, MIT, Harvard, Yale. I mean, you can keep going down the list, and he only got accepted to Georgia Tech, UT, and U Miami. He also shared his Common App essay on social media publicly. So I decided to take a look, and I do have some comments and feedback on this essay, which I also want to share with you guys. I do understand he is very successful. He's very knowledgeable, very smart guy. I am not doubting that, right? I'm actually going to give some both positive and constructive feedback on his essay. I think the main point is that everyone can learn a lot from this college admissions process, and having been through it myself and read so many essays from a lot of students, by the way, if you want to get yours done, achieveedprep.com in the description. I think I've developed kind of an understanding of what a lot of students tend to do versus what I actually think is a better way, at least, to write your personal statement. All right, so without further ado, let's just get right into the essay. I will never go to college. I texted my mom on January 14th, 2019. And for years, I believed this with every fiber of my being. At a young age, I saw that kids were funneled down the same narrow path. Get good grades, attend a good college, land a good job, live a good life. It felt like a prescriptive formula devoid of individuality. I rejected convention and took to self-learning. The first sentence, I don't know if that's it. I don't know if that's how you should start your essay in an essay about college admissions, right? Like, I understand this is probably how he actually felt, and I can see why, right? His business is very successful. But if you're applying to college, like that just doesn't really make sense to me, right? It's like you're applying to a job and the first thing you say in the interview is, I don't want this job. It's just maybe not the right place and the right time for that. He also continues and kind of says, oh, he doesn't want to be like these other kids, right? That just get good grades and, get a good job, etc. And kind of distinguishing himself from that. I also don't know if that's the best look, right? Like, from the college admissions officer's point of view, they want kids to attend their college and actually enjoy it there. Yet this author is kind of saying, I don't really want to do that. I want to be unique, right? And again, I just don't know if that sends the right message to the particular audience that you're trying to convince, which is the admissions officers. By age 7, I was coding. By 10, I was giving lessons for $30 an hour. By 12, I published my first app on the App Store. By 14, my online gaming website was earning $60,000 annually. And by 16, I had a 6-figure exit. YouTube was my personal tutor, teaching me everything from programming to filing my LLC's taxes. Toward the end of my junior year, while classmates prepared for exams that would ostensibly dictate their futures, I was returning from a startup accelerator, emboldened on my unconventional path. I had launched my latest app, Cal AI, which tracks calories by just taking a picture of food. Encouraged by initial positive feedback, I decided to move to San Francisco with my co-founder for the summer. Within a week, I found myself interviewing my first employee. Who was I to question a man with 24 more years of experience and a family to support? My imposter syndrome became a source of motivation, pushing me to be the last person to leave the office every night. What I do like is that we kind of finally get a little glimpse of what the author is thinking about, right? Well, what's kind of the inner thoughts and emotions of the author. And here, right, he mentions the imposter syndrome, being a 16, 17-year-old kid interviewing someone who's 40 years old. That's a very fascinating story to tell. And my feedback here is, I wish that he actually spent more time on this point. He kind of glosses over this entire experience of interviewing someone. He mentions it, I had imposter syndrome, and then immediately moves on and says, oh, this was a source of motivation, and then also doesn't elaborate on that at all, right? It's kind of just that old saying, right? Show, not tell. Well, this is, I think, telling, right? You're just kind of saying, oh, I had imposter syndrome. Oh, that pushed me to stay at the office late. And that's it, right? I wish there was more about, what the author was feeling, right? How the author overcame this imposter syndrome in a very specific way. And I think there could have been a lot more said here. So you're not going, right? VCs, founders, mentors. Nearly everyone reinforced the same narrative. I didn't need college. Cal AI had become the fastest growing app in its category. Our team grew to 15 employees. Our users had collectively lost tens of thousands of pounds, and investors were constantly trying to throw money at us, which we rejected. Then one night, I refreshed my App Store Connect dashboard and saw this: $1 million of revenue in the last 30 days. As the dopamine surged through my body and I threw my hands in the air in victory, something felt missing. What was next? It wasn't loneliness. It was a question of purpose. Was this hedonic treadmill of capitalism what the rest of my life was designated for? Yes, my app was helping hundreds of thousands of people lose weight. But would I ever feel this rush again? Was my North Star money, pride, fame, or something else entirely? A month later, I was still searching. Serendipity brought me to the Rionji, I don't know if I'm saying that right, rock garden in Kyoto, where a young Jobs once searched for a similar answer. No, I wasn't magically struck with the right answer like I wanted, but the deliberate imperfection of the stones, the paradox of asymmetry as chaos and order lodged itself in my mind, a quiet contradiction I couldn't let go. Maybe life is just this, a tapestry of contradictions where meaning isn't found in resolution, but in the act of exploring the in-between. I think, again, this idea of going to the rock garden and figuring out, having this realization could definitely have been more elaborated on, because this is the pivotal moment of the essay. For example, even at the start, serendipity brought me to this rock garden. I don't know, what does that mean, right? I wish that the author spent more time talking about, how this happened and, what he was thinking about. I want to hear more of the how, the why, and not just the what. In my rejection of the collegiate path, I had unwittingly bound myself to another framework of expectations, the archetypal dropout founder. Instead of school teachers, it was VCs and mentors steering me toward a direction that was still not my own. College, I came to realize, is more than a mere rite of passage. It is the conduit to elevate the work I have always done. In this next chapter, I want to learn from humans, both professors and students, not just from computers or textbooks. Remember, at the beginning of the essay, the author comes out and says, I don't want to attend college, right? Straight out. And now, by the end of the essay, we really should be getting to the part where, the author's like, oh, actually, I do want to attend college, and here's why. I just don't think this is convincing enough in the way that it's currently written. He spends 3 sentences talking about why he wants to attend college, and the reasoning for that is because of some rock garden where he saw some pattern in the rocks, which also wasn't clear. So I think this is the key point where maybe the admissions officers are reading this and saying, okay, I'm not convinced. I don't think this kid, wants to go to college. He wants to learn, right? He wants to learn from professors and students, not from computers or textbooks. Well, first of all, you are learning from computers or textbooks in college, so I'm not really sure what that means there. But learning from people, I'm sure this guy has so many mentors in the startup world, right? In all his experiences that he can learn from. So why does he want to learn specifically in the college environment? Why does he care about, studying for exams, doing projects, all this stuff when he already has a $30 million, revenue business? That's the key question, and I just don't think it's answered well enough. I began my journey fiercely independent, determined to forge my own path. Now I see that individuality and connection are not opposites, but complements. We are all individuals, but we are also part of something larger. Through college, I will contribute to and grow within that larger whole, empowering me to leave an even greater lasting, positive impact on the world. Now, nearly 5 years later, I am ready to send a new text. I am going to college. This sentence where he says, I will contribute to and grow within that larger whole, leaving positive impact on the world. I just think that's very cliche. What is his definition of positive impact? We never get that answer in the essay. Contributing within that larger whole, like what does that mean as well, right? Like he's a very successful startup founder. I'm sure he understands the need for collaboration and all that, but it's never actually discussed in the essay, which again is because he glossed over a lot of those points where he could have elaborated on this. For example, like he could have really elaborated more on his motivations for beginning this business in the first place. Maybe we would learn about like how he values things like healthcare, right, which I think what his startup is about, and how he thinks that'll lead to great impact on the world. Or he could have elaborated more on like hiring his first employee, interviewing them and onboarding them, and how that connects to his vision of what it means to collaborate and contribute as part of a larger whole. Neither of those things were really elaborated on, and I think ultimately this idea, even though it's really great, and I'm sure it has great backing, just does not really carry that much weight. Now, to kind of summarize it all together, right? I think the positives. I like that it's direct. I think a lot of people, students writing essays, try to be overly stylistic with their word choice and like the way they're constructing these sentences and using very elaborate analogies. But at the core, right, you still have to have good writing. What I don't like, I think there's too much breadth. There could have been like 3 different essays within this essay, right? He could have made an essay on just starting his company. He could have wrote an essay on interviewing that first employee. He could have made an essay on finding his purpose and elaborating more on that rock garden experience. But he kind of like tries to put all 3 together, and it ends up just having too much breadth and not enough in-depth analysis. I really think he should have focused on maybe just one of these, right? To kind of do that more showing instead of telling, and talk more about his emotions, his motivations, his inner thoughts. These things that show not just what he did, but who he is and what he values. And then the other thing, right, is answering the question, especially in this case where it's like, from the first instinct, it's like, okay, why would this kid go to college? And he even says it himself, and he really has to like prove that wrong and say, I actually do want to go, and here's why, especially since he wrote his essay about this topic. And last thing I'll say is if you want your own essay reviewed, we do that here at AchieveEd. So you can go to achieveedprep.com, link in the description. You can sign up for one of our sessions or get a quick and easy review to get your essay reviewed in 24 hours, starting at just $5. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.